welcome. Really glad everybody's here. Excited to have you here. Turn your Bibles over to 1 Samuel chapter 8. 1 Samuel chapter 8. So I started a series last week, and the question really is, what does Jesus have to say about that? And it really is a DAT at the end. You know what I mean? That's the title. So if you're searching for the title of this sermon, it's what does Jesus have to say about that? Okay? And personally, it started with a wrestling match for me. Who am I really trusting? Who do I really trust? Because personally, and I don't know if you're like me, I look for things that work. I want a plan that is reasonable and it is vetted. I love to follow others. You know, there's a saying in business, follow people that you want to be like. Right? So I love someone else with a great plan, and I just want to go ahead and use their plan and apply it to my situation or problem, and then, here we go. I should be able to spit out the same widget. Fix the problem, right? So I love that part of life. I want to see something that works. I want to be able to manage things. So about my life, my finances, whatever that might be, I want to apply techniques, apply these solutions to these problems, and I want to be able to understand. I want to manage. So I'm looking for things to manage, for me to have control, right? Quick fixes. So I think about someone, something, some system, and it's always been a challenge for us. It's an ancient challenge, and it's a current challenge. For instead of me being in charge, to let go and know that God's got to run this. It's difficult. If you're a control freak like me, raise your hand. No. Don't tell me what to do. I'm in charge here. But it's like it's the human condition, they call it. It's just a part of humanity that we want to be able to understand. We want to have the knowledge. We want to be able to apply something that will fix something. And we like to continue to be in control. And we talked about Adam and Eve last week, and we realized that, Adam and Eve, they didn't have rebellion issues. They had trust issues. Right. They believed that God existed, but what was hard for them is that, can God be trusted? Satan didn't try to, ruin their thoughts of God's existence. He didn't deny God's existence. He helped them, he caused them to question God's credibility. Can God be trusted? Did God really say? Did God really mean? So we stop depending on God and we start looking for something else for our answers. And once that starts, it's a slippery slope. You know what I mean? Because now everything that God says can be questioned, and we could be using context to justify or to change something. And it gets really dangerous. Dangerous enough for us to leave the garden, right? To lose the garden. Wow. So we look for seeing what works for others, and we want to say, hey, let's do that. Instead of trusting God, trusting the circumstances instead of trusting Jesus, what he has to say. So something else I thought about a little bit was like in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prayed for God's will, not for more knowledge, not for more explanation. He didn't sit there and reason with God, hey, after 3 days, how's this going to happen? And what's going to, you know what I mean? And I just want to make sure that I want to be assured that this will actually take place and your promises will be true. And, he just said, hey, your will be done. And I struggle with that. I don't know about you, but God, your will be done. I have prayers that I pray in such a specific way as to alleviate any pain possible. So I actually pray for an outcome, but then I go, God, and this is how I would like for you to accomplish it. Yeah. Right? I mean, we got to be strategic, because some of those prayers we're scared to pray. We don't pray unless we have it all figured out and we just go ahead and present God with a plan. Yeah. This is the plan that I would like to apply with you, God. Least amount of pain, least amount of loss, least amount, you know what I mean? It's hard to just go, may your will be done, God. May your will be done. That's difficult. What does that cost? Well, it costs everything. That means I've got to let go of the rope and just trust that God's going to take care of this. What does his will look like? Well, it could look like death. Am I ready for that? So today, we're going to ask a question. Who am I like? Who am I like? Who am I really like? Who do I really look like? When I look in the mirror, what do I really see? That's a scary question, right? For some of us, right? Definitely for me. I don't see any hair. I don't see height. No. So the first thing, when God is not my king, I start looking for another king. So if God is not actively my king, I'm looking for some other answers. I'm looking for some other solutions other than God if he is not my king. Okay, so we're 1 Samuel chapter 8. You should already be there. And I'll be there in a second. Starting in verse 1. It says, when Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel's leaders. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abijah. And they served at Beersheba. But his sons did not follow his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribes and perverted justice. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, you are old, and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as the other nations have. But when they said, give us a king to lead us, this displeased Samuel. It hit his insecurity button, I bet. So he prayed to the Lord, and the Lord told him, listen to all the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king. So what's God's reply, right? We want a king. What's his reply? Well, it's not you that they've rejected, but they've rejected me as their king. Now, how many of us have been in this position? All right, I'm going to poke you a little bit here. It's not going to feel good. That someone has given us advice, but their life was a little bit in shambles. And then we go, I look at their kids, or I look at their finances, or I look at their home life, or I look at how consistent they are on their job, and they're going to give me advice about that? Might want to look at the source, right? Boy, that doesn't feel good when we read it in context here, right? Like, oh, wait a second. God's going, wait a second. You know that verse that they gave you? That wasn't from them. That was from me. There's a different plan with imperfect people. Think about it. None of us are going to be able to get everything all put in order before we're able to help somebody. Right. So Samuel's going to God like, I can just only imagine this prayer. God, you know my sons are a mess and they don't want to follow my ways. And they're right, I'm old. Wait, who am I talking to? It's God. Oh, yeah, God. Anyway, you know I'm old. You know what I mean? I just imagine this prayer and this conversation, and God's like, hey, Samuel, you're not on the hook for this. They're not disrespecting you. I told you to tell them that. That's coming from me. Humbling, isn't it? So they were not rejecting Samuel. People aren't rejecting God in their minds either. See, we're not like someone gives us advice, we look at their life, we look at their, their history, portfolio, and we see that they're probably not qualified to give me this type of advice. We're not like going, and I'm rejecting God, right? So in their minds, they're not rejecting God. They're just asking for something that makes sense, something more rational, right? Like, that's not rational to listen to someone who has no idea how to raise kids to tell me how to raise my kids. It's not rational. So they were kind of going down the same road. Like, wait a second, who's Samuel to tell me this and and give me instructions? And his life is a mess, and he's, making sense? So they all go, Samuel is suspect. He's sus. Not sure if we should listen to this guy. Now, what do? Well, they start now looking at what does make sense. The other nations, now they've got great systems in place. What they say does make sense. Look blessed, quote unquote, blessed their nation looks because of the decisions that they've made. Look at the history of those decisions. Look at the leadership structure and look at the levels of authority and all the things that they have in place. Let's do what they're doing because that's rational and that makes sense. And Samuel's old. His ways are antiquated. Ooh, you ever say that before? Oh, we've moved on past that. We don't think the same way that we used to. We're big in our movement about that. Well, that's how we used to do it in the 90s. That's how we used to do it in 2000 such and such. Wait a second. So we use the Bible then and we use the Bible now. What's different? We're the ones who are changing. God doesn't change. That's the danger zone. We got to be careful with that kind of talk and think. Lost my notes. Where am I at? Maybe I should have used paper notes. It's happened to me before too, bro. Yeah, and I was doing a big event as well, and I had to wing it. Awful. And I still haven't repented. I have no paper notes. Okay. But I do have a Mac instead of a PC now, so I've not had a problem again. I like the thumbs up out there. Let's go. So, God calls him out. And he's saying, it's not about, the goals are all wrong. The target's all wrong. It's not about satisfaction. It's not about having everything figured out. It's not about that. God never said, figure it all out, get it all organized, get it all situated. Life needs to be in order. It can't be clumsy. You've got to have 1, 2, 3, and everything needs to be. No, he didn't say that. What he's saying is, wait a second, you're aiming at the wrong thing. Actually, I'm after your identity and your faith. You're supposed to be set apart from the world, so maybe you will look a lot different. There's a reason why I picked a group that's shorter and weaker than the rest of the nations, because I want to make sure they see me and not you. So if you're trying to be like them, you're going in the wrong direction. That doesn't feel right. I know it doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right. Of course it doesn't look right. We're talking about faith here. So we're not those who trust in man. We're those who trust in God, right? We're those who trust in God. That may not be rational most of the time, a lot of the time. So they didn't want to be set apart. They didn't want to be different. They wanted to be rational instead of faithful. So what is their aim? A lot of times, this is what I struggle with. I want security because I don't like when it's scary and it feels all wrong. How about you? I don't like, you ever say, hey, something down deep in my gut is telling me there's something wrong. Right? Well, the world says, follow your heart. It's kind of the same statement. We don't say it. We just say the Spirit told me. But aren't we supposed to test every spirit? How are we supposed to test spirit? What does it have to line up with? The Word, right? So if your idea or your gut check says something different and doesn't align with God's will, then guess what? That's gas. That's a tummy ache. That's, you need some antibiotics or something like that. That is not God speaking to us because it doesn't line up with His will. We have to be careful. Well, it doesn't feel right. Yeah, it never feels right. So, you know what I mean? Following God doesn't feel right a lot of times. Doing it His way doesn't feel right a lot of times. Raising your children in the Lord doesn't feel right a lot of times. It's hard. It's uphill. Difficult. So we have to be careful because we end up imitating the world's way of thinking. Their priorities, their structures, their way of doing things, the status quo. What are we describing? The wide road, right? That's the wide road. That's the way that everybody thinks it's successful. So let me jump on the wide road. But aren't we warned not to go down that road? Don't do it. That's destruction. Don't do it. Yeah, but there's this little path that's going up the mountain through, vines and thickets, and there be monsters in there and stuff like. And God's like, that's your road. the narrow one that doesn't make sense, and it's really scary, and it's not rational, but it lines up with me, and that's the way we're going. Got to be careful with the world's answers. So I end up looking for success, seeking success over faithfulness and loyalty. What's successful? Well, faithfulness and loyalty may not look successful for your life. We look for comfort over obedience and patience. I get impatient when I'm uncomfortable. I don't know about you. I get impatient. I don't even like waiting at a red light. It's uncomfortable. And my impatience starts to wane. And oh my goodness, I'm about to give in. I can't believe it's not changing. It finally changes. Oh, can't believe I made it through that red light. Oh, there's another one. And it's really hard to obey. It's really hard to obey when it's uncomfortable. Right? Doesn't feel right. Obey anyway. Yeah, but it doesn't feel right. It's uncomfortable. Looking for results over surrender and humility. Yeah, but it doesn't make sense. Doesn't get me results. Surrender. Yeah, but it doesn't better my life. Surrender. Surrender. That's what God's calling us to do. Let go. I've got this. Let me drive. You're driving all over the place. Keep on getting lost. Let me drive. And it takes humility to do that, right? Romans 12:2 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformed by the renewing of your mind. So what happens when we choose the pattern of this world? We're going to look, and we're going to turn over to 1 Samuel chapter 13 now. 1 Samuel chapter 13. We're going to start in verse 1. It says, Saul was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned over Israel 42 years. Saul chose 3,000 men from Israel. 2,000 were with him in Michmash and in the hill country of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan at Gibeah in Benjamin. The rest of the men he sent back to their homes. Jonathan attacked the Philistine outpost at Gibeah, and the Philistines heard about it. Then Saul had the trumpet blown throughout the land and said, let the Hebrews hear. So all Israel heard the news. Saul has attacked the Philistine outpost, and now Israel has become obnoxious to the Philistines. Oops. And the people were summoned to join Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines assembled to fight Israel with 3,000 chariots, 6,000 charioteers, and soldiers as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They went up and camped at Michmash, east of Beth-aven. When the Israelites saw that their situation was critical and that their army was hard-pressed, they hid in caves and thickets among the rocks and in the pits of the cisterns. Some Hebrews even crossed the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilgal. Saul remained at Gilgal, and all the troops with him were quaking with fear. Verse 8. He waited 7 days, the time set by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and Saul's men began to scatter. So he said, bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offerings. And Saul offered up the burnt offering. Just as he finished making the offering, Samuel arrived. And Saul went out to greet him. What have you done? asked Samuel. Saul replied, when I saw that the men were scattering and that you did not come at the set time and the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, I thought now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the Lord's favor. So I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering. You have done a foolish thing, Samuel said. You have not kept the command of the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time, but now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him ruler of his people because you have not kept the Lord's command. So Saul does try He does try to wait for Samuel, but he gets impatient. He starts feeling the pressure, right? People losing confidence in his leadership, and they start to scatter. So Saul offers the sacrifice himself. And all of us go, shame, shame, I know your name. Awful, Saul. I can't believe you would do such a thing. I'm going to be honest. Saul's reasoning makes sense to me. I'm sorry. What is Samuel? He's old, right? He can't raise his kids. And I'm supposed to wait on this guy, right? I'm the people's choice. I'm a head taller than everybody else. I'm the man. And I'm supposed to wait on Samuel. Everyone's abandoning me. Why would God do this? It's not rational. Maybe Samuel died along the way. There are no cell phones. There's no sharing my position or where I'm at, right? We like to put the little pin in and share our location, right? Now we can watch the person get there. I'm sure that would have been a lot easier for Saul. Wouldn't that have been great? He's like, oh, wait, he's caught in chariot traffic. It's cool. He'll be here any minute. There must have been an accident there. A mule died, or I'm not sure, but he'll be here any minute. Guys, it's okay. Look, he's on my location. He's almost here. He didn't have that. He's like, he's not here. He's old. I don't know what's going to happen if I don't sacrifice and get to God. You know what I mean? To me, that's a rational thing to do. I would have done the same thing. Anybody would have done something different here. Maybe Ryan. Ryan probably would have done something. No, probably not. Okay. Me and you, Bo, would have done that same thing. So then Samuel arrives. And it's like, oh. And we've got to catch this. You've done a foolish thing. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. See, we learned in chapter 8 that it wasn't Samuel in the first place. This is all coming from God. How many times we have a hard time taking advice, believing that God put a certain person in our life at a certain time to help us with a certain thing in our life, yet we didn't see that person doesn't look like who they should be to be able to be giving me the advice on this subject of my life. And we try to rationalize everything, and God's going, no, you're exactly where you're supposed to be with the person that I put in your life. Yes, I know they're a mess, but you are too. But I need their voice right now to speak into your life and to give you the instructions. And when you push against that, you're pushing against me. You think about that. One decision defined Saul as to who he was as a leader. That one decision, which was rational to everybody in this room. Human solutions might feel right. They might feel efficient, right? They might look good on the outside, but they cost us. They're costly. When we compromise our convictions, when we try to go around a verse and we try to not apply something because it's out of convenience, we are asking for trouble. And we go, everybody else would probably have done this. You see what I mean? Doesn't line up with God, though. We've got to be very careful. It's a warning to all of us. We can't go down that road. So what does Jesus have to say about that? Right? What does Jesus have to say about that? Well, look at Matthew 20. Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. You do it differently. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Upside down world, backwards. But Jesus draws a line in the sand. He's like, you're not like them, guys. We can't be like them. This doesn't work that way. If you've selfish ambition and you want to rise to the top, it's gonna the rug's gonna be pulled out from underneath you. This is not the way it works here. It's backwards, upside down. And it needs to be obvious to everybody. A servant was known as a servant. And he's like, you're going to be known as a servant. Then let me do the work in your life. Matthew 11:29, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Not be a better you. Adjust your life. I love how he just stop and copy me. Be like me. Learn from me. Basically, my way or the wide way. There is no other way. It's just Jesus' way. That might look complicated. That might look hard. That's the uphill road that's full of monsters. But Jesus is like, that's my way. I love John 14 here. Don't you know me, Philip? Even after I have been among you such a long time, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. To become like Jesus is to become like God. And how does this happen? It's trying to be like Jesus is to be like God. Remain in me is what Jesus says. As I also remain in you. How does it happen? It doesn't come from more effort. Try harder. Cowboy up. Don't let them get you down. Don't let them see you sweat. Be a man. Be a strong girl. Right? It doesn't come from that. What we're being told is remain in Jesus. That's how this is going to happen. Be like Jesus, parakalitheo. In Mark 1, when Jesus is calling us to follow him, he's saying, be me. You become me. Don't just do what I do, you do what I would do. You gain my heart. You become me. Remain in me and you. We're one. So it's not about effort, it's about closeness. It's about staying as close as we possibly can to Jesus, staying close as we possibly can to him. So we're going to close up with RoboCop. You guys remember RoboCop? Yeah. We've talked about this before. So the danger is not that we stop following Jesus. That's not the danger. It's dangerous, but it's not the danger. The danger is that we follow him while we're becoming like the world. So what do we become? We become a hybrid Christian. We're not really worldly, but we're not really a Christian. We're something else. Like this guy, he looks retarded. This is not normal. It's cool in the movie, but imagine what this feels like if you woke up and you saw this in the mirror, right? Sisters, who wants to marry this guy? Right? I'm preceding the wedding and I'm over the wedding, and do you take this? What are you? To be your lawfully wedded, not sure what you are, till death do you part. Well, I'm not even sure if this guy dies. What is he? Well, that's what we look like when we're not really a Christian and we're not really worldly. We're just kind of something else. What does Jesus say about that? Not really hot, not really cold. It's disgusting to him. I will spit you out of my mouth. It's disgusting. I'd rather you just be a robot. I'd rather, follow me or don't follow me. Don't say you follow me and then be worldly. That's not just dangerous for you. That's dangerous for all the people that you say, hey, I'm a Christian. And they're going, hey, I want to look like him because he's a Christian. So now you're taking everybody else down with you too. Stop being a hybrid Christian. You're not really, we've got to stop that activity. Got to ask ourselves, who are we like? Well, what's our schedule say about that? Come on. And we could say all we want, but what does our life look like? What's on our screens? What does our screen say? Does the screen that we're looking at on our phones say that's like Jesus? How about our fears, the things that we're afraid of? Does it look like Jesus? Desire to be like them. How much do we desire to have the outside influence, the world influence on our lives? Let me ask, would you do the things, try to get away with certain things, dabble with, engage with, listen to, watch on television or watch on YouTube or whatever your stream of information on video is? Your purity choices, would you make the same purity choices? How about your politics? Who would you align with? Who would you not align with? Our social life, who would you invite into your life? Entertainment, what would you be wrapped up in? Job choice, What job would you choose? What friends would you choose? What financial decisions would you make? What commitment choices would you make if it were all disciple of Jesus, following Jesus, parakaletheia? Would it look the same? Not a hybrid, but a purebred. Purebred Christian. Is that what they would see? You know, Dina and I bought a puppy, not recently, when we did, sorry. She has passed since, so she's been gone for a bit. Her name was Phoenix. And I remember when we first got her, they said, look, we went to the store. She was so cute. She was in this little box with a bunch of other sisters or brothers, whatever, little litter mates, right? But they were Cocker Spaniels. But ours was a beagle. And I'm like, but she is like full-bred beagle. And the person that was the puppy person in the pet store said, no, she came from a litter. Some of them look like this, some of them look like this, so she's a lot cheaper. And I like that, but you know, she didn't have papers. You know what I'm saying? She didn't come purebred beagle, even though she sure looked like a beagle her whole life. But she wasn't a beagle. She wasn't purebred. She wasn't fully a beagle. I think some of us, I hate to say it, some of us, we're just not Christians. We don't have the papers.
Come on, Matt.
You know, if someone were to look at our life, does it equal? Like, do they howl like a beagle? Do they run like a beagle? Do they sound like a beagle? You know what I mean? Do they look like a Christian? They act like a Christian? They walk like a Christian? Do they react like a Christian? What comes out of their mouth? What habits do they have? What does their life look like? Can someone follow us to heaven?
Come on.
If they were to follow our life, and I'm not talking about on our good moments, I'm talking about from the time you wake up to the time you put your head down on the pillow, not on Sunday. That's a cop-out. Monday.
Yep.
Would they be able to follow me to heaven? And they say, that's a purebred. He's a Christian. He looks like the Bible. Looks like Jesus. What do we look like? What do we really look like? The closer we stay to God, the less appealing the world looks for us. I promise. The less we desire what the world desires, the less we listen to the things that the world listens to, the less that we hear the serpent talking. I'm telling you. When God is not our king, when Jesus is not our Lord, we look for something else to follow, someone else to follow. We want more answers. But when God is our king, we don't need to be like anybody else. We don't get our confidence from the world or security from the things that happen good or bad. I'm telling you, I don't like to even hear it. God bless my life. I think we have to be careful with that. Why? Why do you say God bless your life? Because of all this money or fame or glory or whatever. Well, be careful with that. Because is it in line with the blessings that look like what comes out of the Bible? We got to be careful. Is that heaven word or is that worldly word? But when he's our king, our decisions, our roles at work, our homes, our goals, our dreams, our identity, everything is shaped by him. He's our king. He's our Lord. As disciples of Jesus, as Christians, our lives should be walking examples to answer the question that we just asked. Who am I? We should be able to say, I'm like him. Amen?
Amen.
So what does Jesus have to say about that? Well, he has to say a lot. So who are we? Guys, I love you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, giving you some things to chew on, hopefully, going into this week. Have a great day. Love you all.